future. And it makes our countries more efficient. This is particularly important for small countries with limited resources. There is also another important aspect of the digitization we can never forget. Digital as an equalizer. In order to prevent the emergence of the digital inequality and division, last year, Estonia and Singapore were co-sponsoring a global declaration on the digital response to COVID-19, Close the Digital Divide, the digital response to COVID-19. Of course, the value we can extract from tools is contingent upon
Did you bring my phone out of Victoria?
the manner in and the purpose
I put water for you. Wear shoes. Don't come on.
repressive states become more efficient. Instead, we have to help those who are currently using digital tools for the benefit of their citizens, not to their detriment and oppression. It is important for Estonia that the basis of our cooperation are shared values, principles,
He's always bullying me.
all of which fundamentally hinge on trust, particularly trust created through digital means. At the recent Tallinn Digital Summit, we discussed how to utilize trust, transparency, and the free flow of data to make large-scale, cross-border infrastructure investments trustworthy. Collective concern of governments and international organizations demonstrated the need for a shared framework to underpin our cooperation, a trusted connectivity. This framework articulates the common vocabulary, common interest, values, principles, and standards necessary for us to safeguard democracy and to ensure democratic countries respond to the global demand for physical and digital infrastructure by offering a higher quality, higher standard alternative to those connectivity providers who do not share our love of free societies. Estonia has been since the early days among the creators of the normative framework for responsible state behavior in cyberspace. At its heart is international law, including the UN Charter in its entirety, international humanitarian law, and human rights law. As the host nation of the independent Tallinn Manual, which is starting its third run, we emphasize this wholeheartedly. As an elected member of the Security Council, we were pleased to host the very first official discussion on cybersecurity in the Council earlier this year, which allowed us to raise awareness on threats to international peace and security stemming from the malicious use of cyberspace, and to create momentum for the implementation of our existing framework. Discussions on cybersecurity and cybercrime must ensure that we make a concentrated effort to implement the rules of the road we already have. We cannot go down this road without bringing companies and civil society along. Legal frameworks have utmost importance, but laws alone do not protect us. We also need empathy, democracy, rule of law, good governance, and the flexibility to adopt changes caused inter alia by COVID-19. Countries are exporting what they actually are and what happens inside their own country. Countries that repress their people spread fear also to other countries and societies. And that is why we have to talk about the repressions in Belarus. Stand in solidarity against the aggressive and destabilizing behavior of Alexander Lukashenko's regime, and remain convinced that the will of the Belarus people should be the main guideline for shaping the future of the Republic of Belarus. That is why we can't forget occupied Crimean Peninsula or the situation in eastern Ukraine. Ukraine has our strong and unwavering support for their sovereignty, territorial integrity, and for non-recognition policy of the illegal annexation of Crimea by Russia. Security is indivisible. Ukrainian security is also ours. As an elected member in the United Nations Security Council, we continue to keep the issue of Russia's aggression in Donbass and the illegal annexation of Crimea on the Security Council's agenda.
Victor!
That is why we have
Where's Victor for me?
migration flows affected by instability and unrest in different continents. That is why Estonia supports the idea of Summit for Democracy hosted by President Biden. That is why Estonia, from her side, is hosting the next global conference for media freedom in order to boost the synergies of internet and media freedom in the situation where journalists and media workers are more and more dependent on internet freedom and modern technologies. Advancing media freedom goes also hand in hand with combating disinformation. And that is why we continue to support the rights of women and girls around the world. There can be no democracy, no security, no development without one half of the humankind. When looking at the future, we need to talk about the rights and protection of children, in particular in situations of conflict. In Afghanistan, at least 45% of the population are children under 15 years of age. They need protection, access to education, healthcare, or we will add to the never-ending cycle of conflict. Estonia, as an elected member of the Security Council, has put special emphasis on the full, equal, meaningful participation of women in peace processes and on fighting sexual and gender-based violence. We have tried to give a voice to women, human rights defenders, by inviting them to brief the Security Council. We were also able to draw attention to the ever-deteriorating situation of children in armed conflicts, which has been even more amplified by COVID. Nevertheless, we know it is by no means enough. Tangible action is needed, and needed more than ever. The United Nations relies on cooperation in solving international problems of an economic, social, cultural, or humanitarian character. However, solidarity is achieved in practice only if we follow principles of the solidarity every single day. There is a great potential of solidarity in the United Nations, regardless of the problems we are collectively facing. If there is a will, there is always a way. We remain ready to serve United Nations. Thank you.
Au nom de l'Assemblée générale, je tiens à remercier.
On behalf of the General Assembly, I wish to thank the President of Estonia for the statement that she has just made, and I ask protocol to escort Her Excellency.
repente.
On behalf of the General Assembly, I have the honor to welcome to the United Nations His Excellency Moon Jae-in, President of the Republic of Korea, and to invite him to address the Assembly.
President Abdullah Shahid, Secretary General Antonio Guterres, distinguished delegates. Standing before you again in 2 years at the UN General Assembly, I am keenly reminded of the precious normal daily lives that had been lost. Guided by the leadership of President Shahid, who assumed presidency of the 76th session of the UNGA, I hope the international community